You have got eyes, I presume. But what if I were to tell you that there was an untapped art form in Minecraft building nobody is talking about right now? You see, perspective is a key tool used in many forms of art, helping to give clarity to an image with angles, depths, and distance. But did you know it also lies to you? I'm Elodie, and this whole thing started when I found this image online. This is a build by Mine67 attempting to recreate a piece of Alarico concept art. Funky, right? But when you break this down into its individual layers, you can see it all come apart. And you can really see how deep this rabbit hole goes. Using a fixed point of view, you're able to create things in the game that are physically impossible to otherwise. Like this window frame being split across all these different layers, with the glass being back there. Though there is evidence of people experimenting with this as far back as 2012, 13 years ago, but it seems to be a relatively untapped building technique. And boy is it satisfying when it all syncs up into one uniform piece. So I started talking to my Discord community, link down below. We have a whole channel for showing off your cool builds, and we got a ton of cool experiments out of it, like these aerial antennas. So many, in fact, that I decided to launch a mini competition to replicate 4 increasingly complicated images using these techniques. So let's break them down. First up, I decided to start us off with a simple off angle of a shed, with the main focus being on the inconsistency in the sized paneling. And boy did I underestimate people. There's no status quo, so no pressure to not just experiment. I also got everyone to send an image of the original build broken down into pieces, allowing you to see how certain elements are made up, with the foggy glass techniques or focusing on depth and shallow focus to make something seem shorter or longer than it is. This strange angle also allows for the use of artificial shading effects like glass panes, which would otherwise be difficult to make complement every possible angle, like using the brown panes here to make the illusion of larger edges. Let's stop and analyze one of these structures in depth. Here we can see a build by Fabian from the Discord, someone who we will be coming back to a lot during this video. From this controlled perspective, you're almost distracted from any possibility that you're being lied to through the immaculate use of these colored panes here. It transitions from shades along the in-between of these blocks, something that would just get washed out if you looked at it from front on. It's this added control that perspective art really lends itself to, like how this shadow section is made even darker by being underneath this overhang, even though the blocks down here are identical to these blocks up here. And we've got some witchcraft going along here with this windowing that fully breaks apart when you get closer, and you can see just the layers of glasswork here, adding to almost a reflection of the terrain around it. Really, really cool. But then, of course, we have the partitioning metal down below with all of these little bits here. Even though it's broken up into 5 individual pieces, it creates this single unit across the back here with just these little inconsistently sized areas. If this shadow wasn't along the ground, you wouldn't be able to tell. Seriously, how is no one doing this? Next up is a build by Babcho from the Discord. I was inspired by Mine67's clock tower and wanted to see how we could do stuff using these timepieces. Since clocks are made up of so many different little wiry and spindly structures, I thought that it would be really cool to see it sort of used in this way with depth, and Babcho has absolutely nailed it. The fact that this front area is further forward means that it can sit in front of this ring, and from down here where the perspective is, this sort of warping gets masked by the angle itself, and it appears to be a full circle. You can see that the whole thing isn't actually a perfect circle, and it's all warping slightly downwards because the angle that it's meant to be looked at from is down here. We got the cool guy ringing the bell down here. I think I really struck on finding this image. The inside of the bell sweeps over here because you're looking up into it from this down perspective. This is a perfect example of people approaching the style differently. Much less of a layer by layer approach, but it really sits in this key perspective as to where it should be viewed from. Really brilliant work, Babcho. Whilst Fabian's previous build was at this off angle, which lent itself to the distance and the forced perspective, this next build here is all from one singular face-on perspective, which lets the depth really flow. The reference to this one was this VW camper van, and I wanted to see how people would use how certain elements can break where they are in the actual physical space. This is a perfect example of this, where this backboard could have continued up top, but this area is actually way closer to the player. This is absolutely beautiful, with these small but less detailed structures being able to be moved forward to take up the space. Rather than building something large up against that back wall, it can just be smaller and closer. I think this is showed very well with the back areas being segmented in this way, and then of course the glass sort of cloaking it as to what you can and can't see. And another thing based on the clock from Babcho's build is this isn't a perfect circle. Far from it, actually. It's all based around this continuous perspective. When there's one point in space that you care about, that's all you need to care about. Seriously, give some props to these builders in the comments, because they did an incredible job on this. From the different elements of noise in the back that just blend into colors, it's incredible. And I think it's about time that I do a little bit of building myself and show off that I actually know what I'm talking about. For this build, the reference was my beautiful face. You can see that I'm using this particular angle here to see whether or not we've got the right positioning, and then I actually cut away behind the cheeks because I want this to be almost only blocks that need to be seen. And as you can see, this build is already coming together quite nicely, and I am working on the hair area to outline the eyes. I want this to be a very asymmetrical build. It's very easy for me to do one area on one half and then the other the exact same, but as you can see, I'm going to do the eyes completely differently on each side. I actually streamed all of this over on Twitch. If you join my Discord, you will also get notifications as to when I do go live, and I'm planning on doing that a lot more with my videos going forward to do the sort of behind the scenes stuff. So check it out. Here you can see that I've tried to do the whites of my eyes and the shading going into a nice blue here, and if I line it up here, then you can see that that does just about hit the side of my face quite nicely. I wanted to do the cool glass effects as we've seen in the previous builds to add some additional shading and get some unique hues going through my eye, because the eyes are split up into 3 distinct colours normally. I've actually discovered that my face is quite soulless without the single yellow highlight that I have, but we do add that later in quite a clever way, I think, and it really brings it together. Here you can see I'm doing all of the glass, and I'm doing it at different levels so that there's amethyst with dark blue, and this sort of overlap between them is a nice transition. This was a great experimentation into how difficult it is to sort of think up how you'd go about doing something like this. Here you can see that I'm trying a singular block that works incredibly well for this side of the eye, and then I try and do the same thing for the other eye, but in a completely different way. Here we've got an object that is very small and up close. I want to do an object that is really far away and big. Here you can see me mining out the area for a different section of eye here. I want to have that same highlight aligned on the left side with a yellow gold block in there. If you've enjoyed this video so far and want to see more concepts like it, then please subscribe, and I will be doing many more cool building videos, such as the ones you can go and watch already on my channel. I am not afraid of making some weird and experimental things. I think that's being shown off here by whatever's going on up here. And when you're adjusting the stuff closer up, the shape of it matters even more than far away, because you do not have that much detail. That's why I switched to using some stairs here. And here we go, this fully broken down build becomes a picture of my beautiful face. And here you can see the final result from the correct perspective, looking magnificent. Now that we've made our own build, we can have a look at this final build by Fabian. The original reference image is this rocking horse with a plant and a ball on it, weirdly. And I've gotta say, Fabian has absolutely smashed this. I want to take a second to talk specifically about the minute details, like this eye fully devolving when you move away from this point here, because it's made out of all of these intricate little pieces, including candles. And of course, all of the wonderful glass work here that is stacked up to create these unique hues in the reflection on this ball here. When viewed from this angle, it sort of rounds off that shape, similarly to over here, where these parts stick out of the side, giving the horse more depth. And all of these thin pieces here that stack up to create reflections along the horse's legs. It's genuinely incredible. The eye for detail used on this is like every strand of hair done by these little bits of glass here, adding that little bit of texture through the depth on the tail. The shadow where the hair is over the top of the face being done with this glass pane line. My favorite part, however, might just be how bunched up all of these leaves look from the perspective line, but really they're really stretched out and just shoot upwards out the back, going taller and taller to just fill the necessary space without having to add anything in the back. But it gives the illusion of that volume. This is what I meant by these builds lying to you. They are an absolute delight to look at, and they perfectly capture the control that the builder had whilst building it. I strongly encourage you to go and try out making some perspective builds like this if you want a nice challenge. It is like no other way of building. You will be pushed to problem solve and come up with unique and creative solutions to problems you didn't even know existed. We're seeing a lot of experimentation in the Minecraft building scene at the moment with Buildstone, with this perspective stuff that my Discord's been up to. This is a new generation of just making cool things, and I am all for it. If you liked this video talking about perspective and framing and all of the more technical sides of building and being in the camera at all times whilst you're thinking through your build, then click this video here where I talk about Hermitcraft builds and how photography methods are used in their composition to make them look even cooler. Or if you want to see a bit more of an unscripted video where we're just building for fun, take a look at my new Minecraft minigame series that I've started, Minecraft Palette Shuffle. Bye!